Bernie Sanders went on CNN to discuss various issues, and he just dropped knowledge on them. Let's listen.
Let's talk about something the Republicans do want to get done. That's the Keystone Pipeline. The House just approved it. What's the Senate going to do tomorrow?
I hope very much that that we will not provide the 60 votes.
And why? What do you have against the Keystone Pipeline?
Well, what the scientific community tells us, virtually unanimously, Allison, is that climate change is real. It is already causing devastating problems. And if we do not transform our energy system away from fossil fuel, this planet is going to face some pretty serious problems. The idea that we would give a green light for the transportation of 800,000 barrels of some of the dirtiest oil in the world makes no sense to me.
I mean, you know, the State Department has done all sorts of environmental impact studies and found that it would have no negative impact.
Yes, I do know that, and they were very faulty studies. What they assumed is that if we killed the pipeline, the oil would come by rail. I don't accept that, and the people who did that study had a prior relationship to TransCanada. Bottom line is, the Republicans talk about this as a jobs program.
Yes.
Do you know how many permanent jobs are going to be created on this?
How many?
35.
Why? Why do you make it so? Because you're defining it very narrowly. It's not just about in the making of the pipeline. It's what this oil will provide as commerce, how it changes our dependence on foreign oil. I mean, there's a lot going on.
There is. But the Republicans refer to this often as a jobs program. There are 35 permanent jobs. If you want a jobs program, it might be a good idea to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, and our rail system, and start creating millions of jobs, not 35 jobs.
Are you running for president?
Well, I'm giving some thought to it. We're going around the country. Taking on the billionaire class and Wall Street and the Koch brothers is not an easy
How are you
task.
going to get elected president if you take on the billionaire class?
That's a very
Don't you watch the elections?
Well, Chris, I mean, to be very honest with you, we may have reached the tipping point, where candidates who are fighting for the working class and the middle class of this country may not be able to do it anymore.
They just admitted it on CNN. I've been pulling my hair out for years, screaming at the mainstream media, would you talk about corruption? Corruption is the #1 issue in American politics. And the entire time, what does CNN do? What do all the mainstream media channels do, including the nightly news, you name it? And then the Republicans and Democrats argued again about abortion. Then they discussed gay rights. Then they discussed Kim Kardashian's ass. And they never got to the #1 issue, which explains why our government is not representing us in any way, shape, or form. They admit it here. Yeah, you can't get elected without the billionaires. Okay, what's his name? Chris Cuomo, right? Okay, dude, come on. What are you doing? You understand this, apparently. You get it, apparently. You have the knowledge of the situation that somebody can't get elected without the approval of the American elite, the oligarchs in America. So why are you not talking about that on a daily basis? Why are you not bringing that up all the time? Why are you not telling the American people, hey, this is why your government is not listening to you? There was political science research that came out about a year ago which showed that the opinions of the American people do not correlate at all with the policies that we get. But you know whose opinions do count? The opinions of the rich, the opinions of the corporations, the opinions of the elite. They get almost exactly what they want in terms of their opinions. The rich across the board have been screaming about deficit reduction. So what happens? The government goes ahead and does deficit reduction. But meanwhile, 90% of the American people want universal gun background checks. We don't get it. Why? Because they're not listening to us. They're listening to the NRA and the gun manufacturers, the people with the money. 80% want to raise the minimum wage. They're not listening to us. Even a majority of Republicans want that. But they're not listening to us. Why? Because they're listening to the only group of people in America that don't want the minimum wage to be raised. That would be the corporations. That would be the rich. So they get it, they know it, but they're just, I guess what? They don't think it's that interesting. They don't think it's that important. But he's admitting you got to get the approval. You got to kiss the ring of the kleptocrats and the oligarchs, and then you can run for president. He's like, how dare you think you could run, Bernie, without getting the approval of the rich? What are you, crazy? That doesn't make any sense. But I thought, Chris, you are supposed to be the watchdog of the government. You're supposed to call them out if the system goes awry. And we do have a system that's not democratic. But you're not. You've just resigned yourself to it. I don't know why they don't think that's worthy of discussion on a regular basis. Or maybe they know that they'll lose their jobs if they talk about that on a regular basis, because you can't rock the boat. If you rock the boat too much, you're gone. But Bernie Sanders, man, he's showing us how to do it there. I like how when they bring up the one Keystone study from the State Department that was like, oh, no, there's no problem with it. It's totally cool. Bernie was like, yeah, no, the study was BS. He's like, well, that was the dumbest study I've ever read in my life. Do you realize who was funding it? It was people who were linked to the oil companies and the natural gas companies. Of course they're going to say the wrong thing, and they did. And the hosts are like, but okay. Anyway, moving on. And then understand the one counter argument that Chris Cuomo got away with there and Bernie didn't respond, but he could have, is when Chris Cuomo says, well, don't you understand that this changes our dependence on foreign oil? Actually, no, it doesn't. Because all of the oil from the Keystone XL, it's being shipped out. It's being shipped out of America. So it's not going to have an effect on our gas prices and oil prices. In fact, it's private interests who are going to get rich off of it. It's not like the money is coming to the American people. The money is going into the pockets of the Koch brothers and private interests who are going to get even more wealthy while they pollute and make people sick and contribute to climate change, and they don't affect the oil and gas prices here at all because it's all being shipped out. No, there's not a single good argument for Keystone. Bernie did a great job bringing that up right there. But again, the most important part is apparently some hosts at CNN know that our government is bought and paid for, and they just don't want to talk about it.